Hey everyone, this is Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and this is another episode of the Sister Leaders Podcast. And I am so excited. And I know you say, Karen, you say that every week, but I'm still excited. I am so excited because I have another awesome sister leader on deck, and she is going to tell you all about herself and what she does in this space called life. So welcome to the Sister Leaders Podcast. Introduce yourself.
Yes, well, hello, sisters. Great to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Karen. One of the things that I struggled with a lot in my life is to make myself heard, make myself understood. And I was that kind of woman who was very, very thoughtful, empathetic, sensitive, caring with other people who I could not have my needs met because I just struggled speaking up for myself and advocating for myself and for what was important to me. And later, that became a huge problem with my career as well, which meant, especially when I gained a team,
Mm-hmm.
right? I thought I was doing such a good job because I was listening to everyone and I was, doing my rounds and trying to be empathetic and caring and being very flexible. But then apparently that wasn't enough. And one day they did an intervention. And I never heard of this before in my life. I think I'm the only person who their employees did an intervention with their boss. I came in one day, and before I could even get to my desk, they were all there. They came in early. They talked to my boss and said, "We're gonna do an intervention with Ivna." And they put me into this room. As I walked in, they immediately confiscated me, put me in the room. My whole team looked at me all serious and said, "Ivna, this is an intervention."
Okay.
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" And I went cold and I was so scared because the last thing I wanted was to hurt anybody in my team, right? My goal was to empower them. And they said, "Ivna, we know you're very nice, you're very kind to us, and all that's good, but your leadership is not working." And the reason it's not working is that you don't have direction, you're not firm, you're not advocating enough for what's right. We feel like because the organization and others are pointing you in different directions and you don't have that strength, then we're kind of all over the place. We don't know where we're going. You're making all these promises, but we don't believe you're going to take us there because they couldn't see the strength in my leadership. So they could see the friend, but they couldn't
Mm-hmm.
see the strength. And that later translated to so many other issues. So my personal issue became my leadership issue. And on top of that, I had social anxiety, shyness. The first time I had to do a 5-minute talk in front of at the last year of college, I couldn't sleep at night. I planned for this 5-minute talks for months. And then when I finally had to go up there and deliver it, I cried. And the thing is, I get tomato red. Even if I'm just like excited, I get really red. No matter what I do, I
Mm-hmm.
get red. And I cried in front of everybody. Second time I did a speech, I cried, in front of everybody. It's pretty embarrassing. And so overcoming all of that and anxiety and this whole idea that I had to be a nice woman, that I had to please everyone, that I had to keep everyone happy, that I had to be the nurturer for everyone. It made me feel empty and like my needs weren't met. And I couldn't find the balance of those two things. And often what happens when we're in that situation and we get fed up with that is that we go all the way to the other side and we become aggressive or passive aggressive. And guess what happened to Ivna when she tried to break free? She got passive aggressive. And so it took me a while to find the right path. And with a lot of studying, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experimentation, and now I help others find that path, find their voice, find their boldness to be able to advocate for themselves and speak up for themselves and be able to truly express what they're thinking, what their needs are, what their perspectives are, and make themselves heard, make themselves understood, make themselves recognized and appreciated and valued by other people around them because they deserve it. I know that was a little bit long. I wanted to share that with
I
with
love that.
sisters.
I love that because as you're talking, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners as well, we know that we are witnessing the results of an evolution. There was an evolution from the Eva you described previously to who we see and hear now. And so we know that there is some meaty information in terms of how you made that trek from the media, the Eva that your employees staged the intervention, which I think is wonderful because I think they had good intentions. I mean, it wasn't a malicious intervention; it was a good intention intervention, as you described it. To the confident um, sister leader that we see before us now, and so did a little research on you. So want to ask a few questions, and so you had mentioned through the research that I found about mentorship that you had acquired a mentor. And at what stage did you acquire a mentor? And why did you think that a mentor would be someone who could aid or assist you?
Well, it's funny you bring that up because in this particular situation, the mentor found me. But I do
Oh,
advocate that we find, because at that time I wasn't yet assertive. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. But I do think it's a beautiful and necessary thing for us to look for and search for and ask and request the mentors that are going to serve us the best. And there are many ways of doing that. But at that time specifically, this happened to be uh, in that job where I got the intervention, when the intervention happened, my manager was the chief operating officer, the chief commercial officer. And he was very senior in the organization. And he happened to see in me the daughter that he always wanted
okay.
because he really wanted to mentor his daughter in business. She was more or less my age, studied the kind of things that I did, had my demeanor, and she didn't want to be mentored by him. So he decided to put that energy in mentoring me so that I could be successful in the business world. And what he did was expose me pretty much every single day to really tough situations where and push me to be bold and speak up no matter what and be very supportive along the way, but not rescue me. And so he would really, for example, bring me into very important meetings with senior, uh, at the time I was doing supply chain management with
Mm-hmm.
our customers that were unhappy with the way we delivered things, or our transportation company. And he would put me at the center of the table. And as they were having conversations, he would look at me and say, Ivna, what do you think? How do you think we should move forward? And I didn't know. I thought my place was to stay quiet and let the leaders talk.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what he had in mind. Every time something happened, something strategic happened in the company, he would come to me and said, Ivna, this thing is happening. I really want to hear your perspective. Or when there was conflict with a team member, I remember conflict with the head of sales, and I called him. I'm like, this thing is happening. He says, well, you're gonna have to speak up with him. What are you gonna say? So he wouldn't go there because this guy reported into him and say, hey, you gotta stop talking to Ivna like that, right? No, don't do that. He would tell me, Ivna, that is a problem, and you're right. How are you gonna handle the situation? And I got your back. I got your back in the sense of, it's okay if you make a mistake. I'll
Mm-hmm.
guide you and I'll mentor you on how to handle the situation. But you're
And
gonna do.
that's awesome. How important do you think mentorship is? Do you think it is a requirement for us as female sister leaders to get to the next level? Do you advocate for everyone to have a mentor? I certainly value mentorship as well as sponsorship. They're two slightly different things because, of course, sponsors advocate for you and mentors help cultivate your skills as you're going through. But I definitely see a place for both in terms of our evolution as sister leaders. And so, how important do you think that just like we have our education, just like we have our years of experience, that having an experience at least once in our career with a mentor is something that we all can benefit from?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yes. And, let me offer a slightly different thought here on why sometimes we don't do it, right? Why we avoid mentors. And mentors can be in all different forms, right? It can be a live person that we talk to. It can be a friend, it can be someone really senior in the organization. It can be an author of a book or someone like you that they get to learn from on a podcast, right, Dr. Karen? So there are many ways of doing this, and there are many ways of engaging with these mentors. But I think on a one-on-one situation, at least one of the things that I struggled with in the past before I learned how to advocate for myself was first feeling like I didn't deserve that person's attention and time,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it was someone more senior. Like I felt awkward asking them for their time, and that really bothered me because I didn't feel worthy of that, support without giving them anything back. I
Mm-hmm.
always felt like I have to be able to reciprocate in the same amount. If I can't give you
Transactional,
as
in a
much as you give
transactional way.
a transactional way. If I can't give you something, then I'm not going to engage with you. I'm not going to allow you to give me anything because I can't give you back. And and that I was a little bit messed up, I would say, because like how are you if you're an analyst, how can you expect someone a lot more senior to give, right? To be always giving them in the same proportion. People find joy in giving that advice. They really do. The other thing that really bothered me was when I did get advice from a mentor, I felt obligated to execute on that. And I wasn't able, because I didn't know how to advocate for myself, I wasn't able to say during that conversation that I disagreed with their approach, but I wasn't
Oh,
willing to do it.
mm-hmm.
And if I didn't say that I wasn't willing to do it, or what parts of it I didn't like, then I would go away and I wouldn't implement it.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, I didn't want to waste their time and have be in the awkward situation of not agreeing with them and then not, and not doing anything. The other thing is, even if I did agree with them, I felt like I wasn't capable of always succeeding in the thing they asked me to do. So now I felt obligated to them to perform on the thing that they told me to do so I could get back to them and tell them, "Hey, I did what you did, what you suggested and I was successful." But I felt like I failed in in actually implementing the advice that I received. And so I didn't even want to ask for the advice because I thought I wasn't going to be able to successfully implement and come back with a positive story to share. And again, I'm wasting their time.
Yeah, and so when I'm digesting what you say, so it's not enough just to implement what someone shared with you. You have to be successful as well, because I think there's two different paths. You felt that not only must I implement, I must be successful. When I also believe that there is some gold in the experience of, even if you aren't successful, at least attempting to implement and facilitate something, and the lessons that we acquire as we attempt to, because usually those lessons help us be successful the next time. And so, what I hear you saying is that you may have hesitated because you wanted to be ensured, maybe, that you would be successful if you followed the advice that they gave. Because I would imagine that part of them sharing the advice was because this was something that maybe had worked for them in their career, or at least that they had knowledge of something that had worked. But we know now, probably, and hopefully you know this as well, that part of our success is making things our own too. And it may be that although we may not be successful in doing it exactly the way as it was explained to us, but with a little minor tweaking, we can still be successful in our own time frame and make it our own. So what do you think about what I just said there?
Yeah, and I think that is something that we should always consider and think about. We don't have to be, because sometimes our expectation is so high of ourselves that we don't even try. We don't even attempt. And so if we can even, like you said, grow or learn through that experience, even if we fail, if we can learn and if we're able to articulate our learning to other people, they are going to appreciate that and they're going to feel even uh, more a desire to further help us to overcome the new obstacles that came in the way, because that's life. You try one thing, maybe you advance here, but then you learn this other thing, that you have this other barrier that you have to overcome, and then you try to overcome that, and you discover this other barrier that you have to overcome, and
Mm-hmm.
you just keep going. And like you said, that's our path, right? That's our journey, that's our learning. And
Mm-hmm.
as long as we're able to stay in communication with our mentor and be able to not feel like we're not worthy of their time, or that we're not good enough, or that we're not going to achieve those results that they're expecting us to achieve, that we're going to disappoint them,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yep.
that it's an interactive process of sisters, or if it's a male mentor, that also works,
Mm-hmm.
then we're gonna feel good and we're gonna get better, and that relationship is going to thrive and get even stronger, because it's not always, oh, do this. Okay, I did it, done. Okay, now do this. Okay, I did it, done. Do this. There's a lot more back and forth to it than just one way, one way orders of what to
Absolutely.
do.
So throughout my career, I've always been the type of person that I listen to mentors and individual seniors and experts in the work field. And then as I'm going through facilitating it exactly the way that I don't understand why we're doing it this way. So I think it's best to do it this way. And I may deviate just a little bit and end up with the same result. But then when I go back and talk to the individual, the mentor, the expert, maybe a supervisor, and say, hey, yeah, I got it done, but I didn't do B. You said do B, but I didn't do B. And then they explain to me the history behind doing B, because sometimes we're absent that knowledge. Well, the reason why we do B is because if you don't do B later on, it's going to impact D and E. You can't see it now, but this is the reason why we do it. And sometimes, as a young professional, it was difficult for me to understand why go through 15 steps when you can go through 10 steps, unless I understood the historical knowledge that was behind the why. So I was a person, a young professional, that you needed to tell me the why, because I did, if I otherwise I don't understand the big picture, because it just seems like we're doing useless steps until you explain to me the why. And there's usually always a business reason in terms of processes, why businesses do things a certain way, even though it may seem cumbersome, it may seem long, it may seem like a waste of time. But better believe if you get that story behind why they do it that way, you'll find out that either it's going to cost them time, money, or product, if you do it your own way, just because you lack that historical information. So that is wonderful. So let's switch gears to talk about Ivna, the awesome practitioner, and Ivna, the leader. So we know that not all extraordinary practitioners are people leaders. You have made that evolution. How would a professional who is a extraordinary practitioner who is struggling with leading people discern whether or not maybe I'm not a good people leader? Maybe I should stay a practitioner and not be a leader of people, because even with training, not everyone is an effective leader who can lead people to their next level, because part of us leading also is to take people to their next level. They're not to stay stagnant. And so how would you explain, how does one identify, I am a extraordinary practitioner and this is where I need to live, or I should fine tune my skills and become a leader of people, because not only am I a great practitioner, I can learn to be a leader of people and be an extraordinary leader of people and a extraordinary leader subject matter expert?
That's a fantastic question. And it's an interesting one to reflect on. I see a lot of people, and I work with a lot of people in technical fields. And an engineer by training,
Hmm.
and I've worked in technical fields for a long time. So a lot of people really, really enjoy that stuff. Like they enjoy the actual technical aspects of their job, like really going deep in their codes and their analysis and whatever they're doing, right? Their spreadsheets. And that's what brings them a lot of joy. Now, sometimes they don't want to explore leadership, especially I see women do this. They don't want to explore the next step, that leadership position, because they're scared that they're not going to be good enough as leaders, that they don't have the experience yet, that they're going to fail. Um, and I think that's a bad reason for not exploring leadership,
Hmm.
because of course we can evolve and grow and we can learn, and there's always everybody has to one day become a leader. Like if they want to become a leader, at some point they have to become a leader. They have to manage people.
Hmm.
And it's sometimes you just have to get into it, and the situations are gonna, if you're a person who has a growth mindset and you really want to help your people develop and grow and perform, and you're improving and willing to improve your communication skills, then that's something that's worth at least exploring and getting a lot of feedback early on, not only from the team, but from your manager, from other people that you work with laterally, upwards, on your effectiveness as a leader. Because without that feedback, especially when you're doing a new thing, you don't really know if you're in the right direction or not, right? Luckily, I didn't have to ask much. I got a lot of feedback,
Hmm.
but most of us, most luckily my employees really spoke up, and my leaders spoke up a lot as well and shared me with me what was working, what wasn't. But most of our own leaders are not going to do that. Right? I had 14 bosses. The majority of them were not good at giving me feedback.
Hmm.
Definitely not quality feedback that allowed me to enhance and improve, but also understanding that, hey, is this something that I that gives me joy right now? Do I enjoy developing and seeing these people grow? And by the way, if I develop them and they leave the team because now they're really good, is that
Hmm.
going to highly, highly frustrate me? Frustrate me? Am I able to move the team towards a greater place, a greater
Hmm.
performance? And I think I think it's something that we have to test out and try if there's an inkling of interest, and not allow the fear of not being able to handle it or being good enough hold us back, which is what I see the most with women.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. One other question. You come from a family of engineers.
I do.
So I don't know, maybe your family is not listening. Have you ever thought about doing something else, or from day one, did you always want to be an engineer?
I did not necessarily want to be an engineer. In fact, I never liked engineering. Oh, let's whisper. I wasn't really. I love the problem solving part of it. I love the analysis. I love numbers,
Hmm.
but I didn't like the engineering part of the job, is in what I studied in engineering specifically. Now, again, it goes back to that experimentation and looking for talking to a wider net of professionals so that you can get an understanding of what's out there. And for me, I was really interested in social impact early on. I had read a lot of books about Muhammad Yunus and Gandhi and all those people. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. That's what I want to do, something like that. I want to be a hero of people, help people. And I didn't really know where to take that, with my engineering background, because I didn't want to lose all that knowledge, all that stuff that I had worked so hard to do. But the
Hmm.
reality is I've pivoted my career so many times already. And I feel like the earlier I would have done it, the better it would have been for me. And I think we just have to break free. I had a lot of people from certain cultures where the family has a huge expectation that you follow a certain path. Like
Mm-hmm.
my mom and my dad are PhDs in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, anything less than a PhD in engineering was a failure, was like less than they achieved because their parents didn't even have, didn't ever get masters or anything like that. It was like very
Mm-hmm.
basic. So they're like, okay, our kids should at a minimum get a PhD in engineering. And none of us got a PhD in engineering. And we had to demonstrate our value in other ways and show, even actually, I had to advocate for myself with my parents and show them that the path that I was choosing, and I had to do this several times in my career, was a path that was worthwhile taking and that I could be successful in, even though it wasn't their definition of success. So we even with our family,
Yeah.
oftentimes we have to advocate for ourselves. Like my mom did not want me to quit my job to start my own business.
Yeah.
Sounded crazy.
The stability, is it the stability of working for someone else? Was that what her fear was, or what was her concern?
That was part of her concern. It's like, you got this good thing going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why are you going to give it all up? Give up your financial autonomy for something that you don't even know if you're going to be able to, do. I don't understand what you do. Like, how are you going to make money?
Yes, so I totally understand that. I am the daughter of a career educator, and so hence me going all the way up to get my doctorate. And my mom taught for 36 years, and she got her master's. She got as high as a master's, but for as long as I can remember, she always preached doctorate to me, even though she only got a master's degree. And so it was my expectation from her is that I would get the highest terminal. She called it a terminal degree, the highest degree. And for her, she was okay with whatever else I did as long as I got that degree. My brother, she was so hard on pro education. My brother got degrees that he never ever used. I mean, that is so crazy. I mean, all because it was an expectation that we have it. I mean, he literally never worked in the field of any of his degrees. And so, yeah, I know about that kind of that family pressure a little bit in terms of expectations. Um, but I kind of marched to my own tune. My dad was pro entrepreneur and my mom was pro education. And so my mom, of course, being a educator and administrator, she worked for a school system, so she worked for somebody else most of her life. My dad, who was retired military, a mechanic by trade, worked for himself outside of the military most of his life. And so I saw the best of those two worlds, and both of them advocated it as the best world. Like my dad was like, being your own boss is the best, and my mom like working for someone else is the best. And so I am an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur. And so, and I have been traveling those two lanes for almost 3 decades. And so I value each one of them take on those two lanes. Certainly, I've seen the pros and cons of each, but I also like the fact that I am a combination of both of them, and I've never felt the pressure of having to take one lane. Like
Mm.
I've never I plan to eventually just work for myself. As a matter of fact, I think this is the last position where I'm going to work for someone. But yeah, I've been traveling both lanes, entrepreneur, meaning working for someone else, and entrepreneur for almost 3 decades now. And I immensely enjoy doing both. It's a lot of work because when you are juggling entrepreneurship and full-time employment, you don't have time to sleep 8 hours and 6 hours and all that stuff because when is your work getting done? But it is something that I really enjoy. And so yeah, I totally can understand that. So as we close, um, gonna ask you a couple of I think it's fun questions. We'll see how you feel about it. So
Do it.
what would you tell a young Ivna, and when I say young, I'm talking about between the ages of 8 to 13. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell a young Ivna?
Oh, super young, Ivna.
Yep, between 8 and 13.
You have a voice. You're entitled to use. In fact, people expect you to share your thoughts and your opinions and to talk about your needs. And it's okay. Your job is not to appease everyone else and be the nicest girl on the planet. Your job is to speak up, express yourself, express your ideas, even if you're in a group of adults. Doesn't matter if you're in a group of people who are, that maybe you don't feel comfortable in. Start practicing that, and people are going to love you for your voice, for who you are, because your voice is actually the best representation of who you are inside.
I love that. I love that. And so now, fast forward it to you're no longer the young Ivna. This is your retirement party. You're not working for yourself, you're not working for anyone else. What theme do you think would be the theme of what people say about you at your retirement party? What would they be saying about you?
Ooh, your questions are good. They really get us thinking. My ret retirement party, the conversations would be hopefully around, oh, Ivna really, amplified the voices of hundreds of millions of women and minorities and people who typically would have a greater challenge being able to fully advocate for themselves and speak up because it would be easier for them to be labeled as aggressive or difficult or abrasive or experience retaliation. But because of Ivna's work and everything that I've been doing, which is my mission and my vision, those people who typically had to, reduce their voice, hundreds of millions of them, if not billions, were finally able to find and be able to use their voice unapologetically while not experiencing any retaliation or backlash as a result. That would be it, because that's what I want to achieve.
And that will be awesome. And that is an awesome mission and an awesome vision. And I have no doubt that you will definitely do a lot of that. A lot of that. So, in closing, we believe in promoting sister leaders. So, if you can tell the sister leaders community how to stay in contact with you, if you have anything you want to promote, book, you got something coming up, any way that we can support you virtually, let us know about that. But what do you have going on and coming up?
Yeah, so check out the podcast if you want to get tips and stories on how to use your voice unapologetically in a way that improves the relationships with people that you have around you, but makes you feel heard, understood, and respected. Check out the Speak Your Mind Unapologetically podcast. We got about 400 episodes in there for you already, and the book Unapologetic Voice, where I've distilled my 101 favorite stories of speaking up by women leaders in the workplace. And there's also prompts to help you reflect on your own speaking up situations, but it's basically like mentorship. We talked about mentorship. It's mentorship in a book with 101 stories. So check those out. And then the newsletter, Assertive Voice newsletter, you can check that out as well and get weekly tips on how to use your voice and amplify your voice in the workplace.
Love that. And of course, we will post her full bio and any links that she provide us in the podcast notes. And so you have had the opportunity to listen to another sister leader who is making her way here on this earth, who is amplifying her value here on this earth. And I am so excited. Stay tuned next time for the next sister leader. I am Dr. Karen Hills Pruden, and I bid you goodbye. Until next time. Bye.